Hello. So, I've been saying for a while that I wanted to make a Blackout Club video that explained more about the lore and introduced all of the voices. In this video, I'm going to answer questions like where are we and what are blackouts, and we'll introduce all of the voices, and hopefully it'll help people to understand more of the story. The story is really what makes the Blackout Club special. It's still developing and we're learning new things every week. If you're completely new to the game, then I have a video that explains more about the gameplay up here in the top right. Before I go any further, I'll just say that this video will have some spoilers for the prologue, so if you have the game, you might want to play that first. Okay, so here we go. The opening paragraph actually tells you quite a few of the questions I'm about to answer. We're in Redacre, Virginia in the early 2000s. Something that happens to the people here are blackouts. As Bells said, they wake up in the woods or on train tracks with no idea how they got there, and if they tell an adult, they just laugh it off. The prologue does actually show Bells waking up from one of these blackouts with a huge trail of mud, and she just has no idea where she's been or how that got there.
Another blackout. Did I even
One thing I need to tell you about are voices. Okay. Voices are sentient ideals, a mixture of emotions, values, or ideas that form into a coherent entity driven by the statement of their name. They come into being when the same or similar emotions are felt by a large enough group of humans. That's how the wiki puts it. Blackouts happen when a voice takes full control over a person. When one of these voices, the I Dare, says that he's left a present for Bells in the underground, she realises that she's actually been down there and left it for herself in one of her blackouts.
How have you been down here? Wait, does that mean that I've been down here before?
The Blackout Club is a group of teens and tweens who have bonded together after these experiences, and they're investigating to try and figure out what's going on.
Unless we do more, like expose these guys, it'll just... This town hates people without making a sound. Our shitty friendship is all we have. Speaking of... Hey, you! Huh? You get the blackouts too, right? Well, that means you're in.
It is possible for us to communicate with the voices. Bells realises that she has to speak out loud for TID to hear her, even though she can see his voice in her head when she closes her eyes. In-game, we can talk to them if they visit our game, they can just come in, or by leaving a message when you sacrifice a light of rebellion. The voices exist in other versions of themselves outside of Redacre 2. One thing that one of the writers said is that blackouts happen when something goes wrong. They're overt, they tend to get the host heavily medicated, institutionalized, etc., and the plague of them in Redacre is a signal that conflict has begun, the voices are going weapons free. One of the reasons they might be open to this more in Redacre is that it's a signal-free zone. There's no cell signal, and with a phone you can only make local calls. This local network is controlled by a group called Chorus, who are definitely involved with Speakers 1, the main voice controller of the town. So we're very suspicious of them.
Come on.
Another thing to know is that closing your eyes can be important. Voices and the Blackout Club can both leave messages that you can only see with your eyes closed, and the prologue shows you that you can't trust everything you can see with your eyes. You can be messed with. Okay, so that was a few key points. Voices control people in their sleep. Speakers 1 is the voice controlling the sleepers we're avoiding. They can also communicate with us while we're awake, and we can talk back. We're in a signal-free zone, so there's no internet and no cell signal, and sometimes closing your eyes is important. I wanted to introduce all of the voices, and in a recent stream we had our friend AltCookie to help with that. So I'll show you that footage, and then I'll show you one of our weekly updates as an example. I don't hear a cookie yet.
You do now.
I do now. Hello, how are you doing?
I figure got caffeine at my elbow. I have the Blackout Club on my screen.
Caffeine is...
on my other screen. I'm playing with friends. I figure things could be a heck of a lot worse than the life I've got right now, so I'm happy.
Yes. Cool. I've opened a lobby as well, so you can join. That's extra good news.
And hey, did you change your hair?
No. It's randomly
you look
got
different today.
A bit curlier at times. Oh, in game.
No, I meant in game.
I've had curly hair for a while. Like, we could jump in at any point, or Cookie. Now we have the resident expert here of the voices.
Huh? Yes.
I'm just wondering if maybe we should do like a little intro to some of the voices for people who don't know the game.
Sure. What would you like to know?
Well, first of all, we should probably start off with what actually is a voice. Like,
Okay. Some people call them demons. Some people call them gods.
story time with Cookie.
And there are multiple theories as to what they are. I describe them in a certain way that other people may not describe them.
Mm-hmm.
I call them voices because I refuse to call them gods or demons.
Yeah.
And
they are
there are
officially
currently,
called
I
voices.
believe, 8 in game, and they're all. If you ever play D&D, they're a bit like the gods of D&D in that they all have a specific domain.
Mm-hmm.
But these domains are actually part of the human psyche.
We could even go through them.
Okay, so the big bad, we'll start with the big bad. The big bad is SAO. You'll hear us talk about them in acronyms because saying their names out loud can summon them. And that's not necessarily something we want to do, specifically with somebody like Speaks as One.
Yeah.
Speak as One is a they. And his domain is order. And you would think to yourself, well, what's wrong with order? Nothing. Everyone needs a certain degree of order in their lives. That's why we have rules and laws, etc., etc. But the problem with these voices is they are the furthest extreme of that thing. So order in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. But when you take it to its furthest extreme, then you have slavery, which is what Speak as One has done to the town. All of the sleepers, all of the people that are wandering around at night are under the thrall of Speak as One. Some willingly, like Lucids, and some unwillingly, like the sleepers.
Yeah, and
so
there's no free will or difference of opinion allowed, really.
Right, which is the furthest extreme. So it's order at the expense of individuality and freedom.
Yeah.
I Dare is his opposite number. All about rebellion, risk-taking. And he used to be about rebellion at any cost. You know, rebellion, you don't need a reason to rebel. You just break the rules because. And now that we have in Redacre, which is the town we're in, we have a purpose. He has been morphing because of that purpose. In her teeth, domain is death.
It's the one Durin has a crush on.
Yeah, it's the one Durin has the crush on, yeah, because, quote, he likes her voice, end quote. She's all about death. Well, death is a part of life, happens to everybody, but she's not willing to wait. She wants it to happen now. Laugh last, as you might tell from the name, he's all about humor. But humor taken to the furthest degree, where it becomes cruelty. It's humiliation. It's spite. Hunt the Strong is about power at all costs. Hunt the Strong is, power at all costs. He used to be part of another voice called Chase the Sun. But Chase the Sun has weakened, and Hunt the Strong has become more dominant, and Chase the Sun was about victory, well-earned, fair victory. Hunt the Strong is all about power at all costs. Win at any cost.
Yeah.
See the Grudge? See the Grudge says that she's about justice. Nope, not so much.
Yeah.
See the Grudge is about revenge and vengeance, which is justice taking to a broken extreme.
Yeah.
The Measure Cuts, reason, knowledge, practicality. He's called the Scholar.
Yeah. That's the one Phoenix tends to sacrifice to.
Right. The problem with logic is that you can logic your way in and out of anything. It's how people say, oh, okay, well, cheese is white. The moon is white, and therefore the moon is made of cheese, which is wrong. So Die for You is about self-sacrifice. It's about giving of yourself to the furthest extreme. So basically, Die for You is all about martyrdom.
Cool.
So they're all elements of the human psyche, but taken to their furthest extreme.
Yeah. Brief intro, and we'll get into more later. There's some kind of politics between them.
Go for the questions.
Questions are good.
I love questions.
When discussing HTS, you mentioned they superseded someone else. Are there other higher powers, and these are the most prominent?
Okay.
Okay.
The answer is part theory, because they leave you in the dark a lot on purpose. But before the game started, Hunt the Strong used to be part of another voice called Chase the Sun. And Chase the Sun, according to legend or the story, Chase the Sun lost their last follower. People stopped caring about fairness in talking about winning. People didn't care about fair anymore. And because of that, Chase the Sun was no longer the dominant voice of that domain. Does that make any sense?
And there was also another voice that was killed, wasn't there?
Yeah, Dance for Us. Dance for Us was consumed by Hunt the Strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Consumed. And that was an actual in-game event that happened. It was fairly epic.
Yeah, so they can be destroyed.
Yeah, except I don't think that they were destroyed. I think they were just subsumed. Right. They became the lesser voice, and therefore no one hears them anymore.
Ah.
I think that any voice that's part of the human psyche can exist.
Okay.
But that's tinfoil hat.
Okay, I'm just going to interrupt to introduce some other characters before we go into our weekly update. We're going to mention Grandmother. She's a character I find really interesting because most of her arc has come about while I've been playing the game. Grandmother used to be a watcher. Everyone in Redacre is assigned a watcher. They're controlled by SAO, and their job is to watch you, learn about you, and add as much of you as they can to the song. The song is a collection of memories that SAO refers to as their mind. A group of other voices managed to trap Grandmother somewhere called the Place Between, where they managed to isolate her from the song and get some answers that SAO was hiding from them. In turn, Grandmother wanted some answers of her own and started remembering things. It turned out that she was called Waker Wellesley, and she wanted to know who was responsible for the death of her grandson. The finger's been pointed at a young Lucid called Kiara, working for SAO, and this story's still developing, so we don't really know how it's going to end. With stories like this, we mostly have to see how they'll unfold, but we can ask the voices questions to try and get answers, or we can maybe even influence them. Anyway, here's Storytime with Cookie.
I do have an update for you this week, if you're interested.
Ooh, I am very interested. So I need to find you again for Storytime with Cookie.
Yeah, one of the things I love about this game is there's an ongoing story, because these voices and the entities working for them can invade your game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awesome. Okay. When you opened that door, you scared the heck out of me, dude.
I just wanted Storytime with Cookie.
Alright, so Storytime with Cookie.
In a creepy closet.
So, kind of a lean informational week this week, but the two topics I do have are really making me go,
Mm-hmm.
The first topic, Grandmother is beginning to encourage people to forget Devon and start worrying about their own necks.
Right. That's
Which
suspicious.
is odd. Yes, exactly. She started taking up a different version of the idea's the song or death choice wailing by saying that club members may have to choose between saving themselves and saving others.
Right.
So yeah, I'm finding her about face on this a bit suspicious, considering her normal, obsessively tenacious nature and how hot she was to get to the bottom of Devon's disappearance as recently as last week.
Yeah.
So I think she knows something, and she doesn't want to let us in on it because we wouldn't approve.
Right.
You know? I mean, I'm telling you, you can't trust Zealot these days. So noodle on that one. Let me know what you think later.
Yeah.
In other news, watchers have said this past week that sundown is a means to, quote, quiet our pain, end quote.
And watchers are the people who work for SAO and keep an eye on everyone.
Right. And that a candidate needs to be found soon or else. It has been theorized that sundown, which is supposed to be some sort of mass conversion or mass quelling event, and the switching out of one of SAO's two voices are linked, and that you can't have one without the other. Which makes sense. I mean, if SAO could convert Requelis at will, they'd be ringing that bell on the hour every hour. So that brings up some questions for me.
Yeah.
SAO has most of the adults in town under their power, and yet none of those people are good candidates for one of the two voices?
Mm-hmm.
Why? What's the criteria to becoming a voice? I want to find out.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about knowing your enemy, right? Also, what happens to SAO if a candidate can't be found? What's this or else all about? Does one of his voices die and go silent?
Okay.
If so, that's a huge deal.
Those are good questions.
Because the main duty of the two voices of SAO is to interpret the song.
Okay.
One knows the word, one knows the song, and together they translate and interpret. That's also how SAO is able to manipulate the song to control the shape.
Right.
So if SAO uses this information to influence and control the shape, theoretically he'd lose that ability at least, and probably a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a real vulnerable time for the puppet master.
Yeah.
You would think that the other voices would be keen to strike then, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So why are they painting a doom and gloom picture of it for us? It's all very suspicious.
Yep. Okay, those are good questions to ask if
and that
voice shows
is
up.
this week's report.
We need like a little cookie jingle tune. So those are good questions for us to ask if
This
a
has
voice
been
shows
Storytime with Cookie.
Yeah.
I feel like a reporter, like, now back to you, Biscuit, in the office.
Yeah. You're doing great. And that's that. So a massive thanks to Alt Cookie for those explanations and answers, and to Dangerously Facetious who asked some really interesting questions in that stream. And if you did like this video, then likes and subscribe are really helpful, so thank you for those, and I hope you have a great day.